Usually when you try to fix something that is broken, like, let's say it's a leaky pipe under your kitchen sink, there is this expectation of just direct physical mechanics.
Right, you just grab a wrench.
Exactly. You grab a wrench, you fit it over the bolt, you tighten it, and the water stops leaking.
Cause and effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You apply a specific amount of effort, and you get a highly predictable, tangible result.
Which, honestly, is incredibly satisfying for the human brain. I mean, we are just wired to love a direct correlation between our effort and the outcome.
Totally. You tighten the bolt, the problem is solved, and you get to walk away feeling accomplished.
You feel like a genius for 5 minutes.
Right. But it gives us this incredible, intoxicating illusion of control. Like, we desperately want things to be fixable through sheer force of will.
Oh, for sure.
But then you step away from the kitchen sink and you step into the world of human relationships, and suddenly that wrench just, it doesn't work anymore.
No, it really doesn't.
In fact, the tighter you try to turn the bolt on someone else's behavior, the more the whole pipe just bursts right in your face.
It's the absolute definition of an unwinnable battle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you are wading into these muddy, complex psychological waters where our deepest, most primal instinct to fix and control completely backfires on us.
And that is exactly what we are talking about today. Welcome to the show, everyone. Today we are talking about the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins.
Yes?
The mission for our conversation today is to explore what is honestly a profound framework for reclaiming your time, your energy, and your peace of mind.
Just by letting go.
Exactly. Both of us recently read this book, and we just realized we had to sit down and talk about how it actually changed the way we are living our daily lives.
It really did.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not often a book does that.
No, it's not. And just to set the stakes here for you listening, so many of us walk around feeling constantly overwhelmed. You know, you might feel drained, stuck, resentful.
And usually you are completely unaware that you're actively handing your power away to the people around you.
Yes. So we are going to explore how releasing the need to control others is the ultimate counterintuitive shortcut to happiness.
And we are really going to dig into the mechanics of this. Like, we aren't just going to skim the surface.
Right, we're getting into the deep stuff.
Because Mel Robbins presents these incredible personal anecdotes and psychological frameworks, and we really need to look at the why and the how behind them. When you actually understand the machinery of your own mind, that is when the real behavioral change happens.
I have to be completely honest here, though. When I first picked up the Let Them theory, I was a little skeptical.
Really?
Yeah, I sort of expected a standard run-of-the-mill self-help book. You know the exact type I'm talking about.
Oh, totally. The ones with nice platitudes and
Yeah.
a suggestion to wake up at 5 a.m. and drink lemon water.
Exactly. But from the very first pages, it completely surprised me. I mean, it wasn't academic, it wasn't preachy, it was just raw.
Yeah, raw is the perfect word for it.
It hit so close to home, and it actually stuck with me in a way very few books do.
I had the exact same reaction.
Yeah.
It is an incredibly human book. You read it, and you immediately feel a little exposed.
Oh my gosh, yes. Exposed.
But in a really validating way, you know.
Yeah.
It holds a mirror up to all these tiny, exhausting, deeply ingrained habits we have when we deal with other people.
So let's start where the book starts. Because to truly understand why this theory is so effective, you have to look at the backstory.
Who really do?
You have to understand how this framework was born out of this profound, paralyzing personal struggle.
Mel Robbins shares her origin story early on, and it is intense.
It is so intense. She describes being 41 years old, completely unemployed, and staring down $800,000 in debt.
I can't even imagine that weight.
And her husband, Chris's restaurant business was actively failing. She was waking up every single day, absolutely paralyzed by anxiety.
We really need to pause and acknowledge the psychological reality of that specific situation. I mean, at 41, societal expectations dictate that you should have a solid foundation.
Right, you're supposed to have it figured out.
Exactly. And she's describing a moment of total, terrifying collapse. The crushing weight of the debt, the professional uncertainty, the immense marital stress. I mean, that is a biological cocktail for absolute paralysis.
She talks about how, to deal with that overwhelming anxiety, her main coping strategy just became pure avoidance.
Which makes total sense.
Yeah, she was hitting the snooze button constantly,
Yeah.
physically avoiding opening the mail because she knew it was just more bills she couldn't pay.
Oh, the mail avoidance is so real.
Drinking to numb the panic and just pointing the finger at her husband. Every single minor task felt like climbing Mount Everest.
Because her nervous system was completely fried.
Exactly. And then in the middle of this darkness, she discovered what eventually became a massive global sensation, the 5-second rule.
Right, the countdown.
Yeah, she was watching a NASA rocket launch on television, saw the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and she applied it to her own life.
It's so beautifully simple.
She used that countdown to literally force herself out of bed before her brain could manufacture an excuse to stay under the covers.
And the mechanism behind that is actually fascinating from a neurological perspective. Like, when she counts backward, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, she is doing something called interrupting the habit loop.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, our brains are incredibly efficient machines.
Mm-hmm.
They want to conserve energy, so they automate our behaviors using a part of the brain called the basal ganglia.
Right.
So when you feel anxious and want to hide, that's an automated loop. But by counting backward, which is a task that requires actual focus, she interrupts that default mode and forces the prefrontal cortex to come online.
And that's the logical part, right?
Exactly. The part responsible for logical thought and deliberate action. It's a brilliant, scientifically sound mechanism for personal action.
But here is where the story gets so incredibly interesting to me, and where the let them theory really begins.
Yeah, the pivot.
Right. Because despite mastering this tool, and despite the 5-second rule becoming this monumental success for her self-improvement, she had this stark realization years later.
She was still exhausted.
She was. She had built this successful career, she was getting into bed, but there was a massive missing piece. All the research, all the longitudinal studies on human happiness, they all point to one single factor determining a happy life. Relationships. And yet she was still wasting immense, staggering amounts of emotional energy trying to manage what other people thought, what other people did, and how other people felt.
Which really just highlights a fundamental limitation in her original tool. I mean, the 5-second rule is magnificent for managing yourself.
Absolutely.
But you cannot 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, another human being, into doing what you want.
I love that so much. You literally cannot.
But we try.
We try constantly. Oh my God.
We really do.
Yeah.
And to understand why we do this, we have to look at evolutionary biology.
Yeah.
Like, we all have a hardwired biological need for control.
Right.
The human brain is essentially a prediction machine. It uses a process called predictive coding to constantly guess what is going to happen next so it can keep us safe.
So it's literally just trying to keep us alive.
Exactly. From an evolutionary standpoint, control equals predictability, and predictability equals survival. If you can control your environment, like if you know where the food is, if you know the weather is safe, you survive.
So the brain craves control because it equates it with survival.
Right. The problem, the massive, exhausting, relationship-destroying problem, is when we take that ancient, innate, biological desire for environmental control and we try to apply it to other human beings.
Right, because human beings aren't the weather.
No. They are infinitely complex, entirely unpredictable variables with their own free will. When you try to control them, your brain is treating them like a math problem to be solved or a pipe to be fixed, and that just creates constant friction, stress, and anxiety.
And what does that look like in our actual day-to-day lives? I mean, the book describes this so perfectly, and I honestly felt so called out reading it.
Oh, me too.
We live as if saying the exact right things will magically guarantee that people will like us. We shrink ourselves down, we bend over backward, we twist ourselves into absolute pretzels trying to manage the vibe of a room or keep everyone happy, and guess what?
You still disappoint them.
You always end up disappointing someone. We mistakenly tie our internal peace to external variables, other people's reactions that we have absolutely zero control over.
It is the ultimate recipe for burnout. I mean, you are taking responsibility for an emotional ecosystem that does not belong to you.
I want to stop and push back on this for a second, though, because I was wrestling with this concept while I was reading.
Okay.
If the desire to control our environment is an evolutionary survival tactic, is it inherently a bad thing? Or is it just a perfectly good tool that we're misapplying when we aim it at people instead of our own actions?
That is the crucial distinction right there. No, the desire for control is not inherently bad at all. Like we said, it is survival.
Okay.
It is the exact impulse that makes you build a shelter or save money for retirement or look both ways before you cross the street. You are trying to mitigate risk.
Which is smart.
Exactly. The issue is entirely about the target of that control. Recognizing the boundary between where you end and the other person begins is the absolute hallmark of emotional maturity.
Wow.
When you try to control another person, you are no longer surviving, you are imposing, you are crossing an invisible boundary. And the natural human reaction to being controlled is resistance.
Always.
They will push back. either aggressively or passively. And that is where all the tension in our lives comes from.
Which brings us to the absolute core of what Mel Robbins proposes. And this is where the book really blew my mind, because the theory is not just one simple step.
Right. It's not just a catchphrase.
No. It is a two-part equation. If you only do the first part, you are actually going to make your life worse.
This is so critical to understand. The two parts have to work in tandem.
Right. So let's break down the equation. Part one is let them.
Let them.
This is about radical detachment. It is the sudden realization that people are going to do exactly what they're going to do, regardless of your anxiety about it.
It's so freeing.
Let the bakery be sold out of your favorite bagels. Let your teenager be furious about their curfew. Let your coworker take the credit for your idea in the morning meeting.
Just let them.
When you just silently say the words let them, it creates this immediate, almost physical mental space in your head.
Let's look at what is happening physically when you do that.
Yeah.
Because it's real biology.
Yeah, please.
When someone does something that upsets you, like, say, the teenager rolling their eyes, your sympathetic nervous system spikes.
You feel it in your chest.
Exactly. Your fight or flight response is engaged. You want to yell. You want to lecture. But by saying let them, in your head, you are creating a cognitive micropause.
A micropause.
Yeah. You are signaling to your amygdala that this is not an actual life or death threat.
Right.
It forces an activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down. It is a mechanism for radical acceptance. You are acknowledging reality rather than violently fighting against it.
But then comes part two, which is let me.
The most important part.
This is the vital step of personal responsibility. After you let them do whatever they're doing, you have to ask, what will I do next?
And we really need to emphasize the danger of only using that first part.
Yes, definitely.
Because if you just walk around all day saying, let them, to everything, you might feel a momentary high of moral superiority.
Like you're suddenly a monk.
Exactly. You might feel a little jolt of, I am so zen, I am above all this drama.
Yeah.
But if you stop there, the book warns that you will end up isolated, incredibly lonely, and totally disconnected from the people in your life.
Oh, absolutely. The book is very clear that let them can easily become a toxic, manipulative excuse to just ghost people.
It really can.
It becomes a shield to avoid hard conversations, or to give your partner the silent treatment, or to withdraw completely from a relationship when things get difficult.
Right.
Like if your friend hurts your feelings and you just shrug and say, let them, and then you never speak to them again, you are not building a relationship. You are not practicing boundaries. You are just building a wall.
Precisely. It becomes a form of emotional stonewalling. Let me is where the true power of the theory lies.
Because it demands action.
Let me forces deep self-awareness. It shifts the focus completely away from your judgment of the other person's behavior and brings it right back to the empowerment of the self.
Right.
It asks the ultimate question. Given that they are behaving this way, and given that I cannot change them, how am I going to respond to protect my own peace?
Let's make this really concrete. I love the workplace example that is in the let them theory because it is universally infuriating.
Oh, I know exactly which one you mean.
Right. Imagine you are sitting in a conference room, you pitch an idea that you've been working on for weeks, you are really excited about it,
You're so proud of it.
and the room goes dead quiet, people politely nod, maybe someone checks their phone, and they just move on.
Brutal.
Then, 10 minutes later, a coworker across the table pitches basically the exact same idea, maybe using slightly different buzzwords, and suddenly the entire room lights up.
Everyone loves it.
Everyone loves it, and they are getting all the credit for your work.
Just hearing that scenario makes my blood pressure rise. I mean, it is a classic, deeply triggering corporate dynamic.
Your blood is boiling, right? Your heart is racing. Your immediate instinct is to jump across the table or to interrupt and aggressively say, I literally just said that.
You want to fight?
You want to fight, but instead you apply the theory. First step, let them. Let the coworker take the credit. Let the room be completely oblivious.
Which is so hard to do.
So hard. But by saying let them in your head, you immediately stop the emotional spiral. You prevent yourself from reacting unprofessionally out of pure anger.
Right.
But you can't just sit there and sieve. You have to apply the second part, let me.
So walk us through what let me looks like in that conference room, because it's not just one specific action, right?
Right. Let me is deciding your strategic next move from a place of calm. It might be saying to yourself, let me speak up right now with a smile and say, I'm so glad you all agree with the strategy I brought up 10 minutes ago. Let's build on that.
That's a great response.
Or it might be, let me stay quiet now, but have a very direct, private conversation with my boss later this afternoon.
Also valid.
Or, honestly, if this happens all the time, it might be, let me realize that this company culture is toxic, they don't value my contributions, and it is time for me to look for a new job.
And the brilliance of that is how every single one of those let me options completely puts you back in the driver's seat.
You're taking your power back.
You are no longer a victim of that coworker's audacity. You are the active author of your own professional response. You aren't trying to change the coworker's character. You are managing your own career.
This was a massive realization for me. We are constantly confusing boundaries with abandonment.
Say more about that.
Well, when we use this two-part theory, we aren't abandoning the relationship, we aren't giving up on our career, and we aren't being a doormat. We are drawing an incredibly strong, clear boundary around our own emotional energy.
Yes.
We are saying to the universe, I cannot control what you just did, but I have absolute 100% control over what I do next.
It is a profound psychological shift from playing defense to playing offense in your own life.
Absolutely.
And this framework applies so perfectly to the sheer exhaustion of the daily grind. The book spends a lot of time moving into how we can neutralize the constant barrage of daily stressors.
Which, if we are being honest, is where most of us lose our minds on a Tuesday afternoon.
Oh, completely. Everyday life is just saturated with these minor, relentless stressors.
Traffic jams when you're already late.
Yes. People chewing loudly in a quiet room.
Incredibly slow walkers taking up the entire sidewalk.
Annoying, vague emails from a boss that lack any context.
It's endless.
It is. And the book points out a really important biological truth here. Your body's stress response to these micro-annoyances is automatic.
You can't stop the initial spike of irritation.
And we shouldn't try to. That is a physiological reality. If someone cuts you off on the highway, or if you have misophonia and someone is chewing their food like a wood chipper next to you.
Oh, the worst.
The amygdala in your brain fires instantly. It detects a threat to your peace or your safety. You cannot magically meditate away the emotion rising up in your chest.
Right.
But, and this is where the theory is an absolute lifesaver, using let them and let me resets that physical stress response before the emotion hijacks your prefrontal cortex.
It interrupts the cascade.
Exactly.
Let them chew loudly. I can't reach into their mouth and stop them, so let me put in my noise-canceling headphones.
Yes.
It is so incredibly simple, but it stops the physiological rush of cortisol that would otherwise ruin your next hour.
And it saves your relationships with those people too.
Totally. But the book doesn't just stick to minor annoyances. It dives deep into something much heavier, something that dictates so much of human behavior, the crippling, paralyzing fear of other people's opinions.
Well, this is a monumental topic.
Yeah.
The fear of external judgment.
Mel Robbins states this in the book as an absolute, unavoidable truth. People will have negative opinions about you.
Period.
Period. Full stop. There's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. No amount of people-pleasing will insulate you from being judged.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
And yet, this fear completely paralyzes us. It is the root cause of so much procrastination. It is the driver of toxic perfectionism. We are so terrified of being perceived poorly.
The book unpacks this beautifully by introducing a psychological concept called the frame of reference.
Yes, I love this concept.
To truly stop caring about what other people think, you have to understand how they are thinking.
Okay, unpack that.
When people judge you, or when they have a strong opinion about your life choices, they are viewing your life entirely through the lens of their own lived experiences.
Their own stuff.
Right? Their own unhealed traumas, their own fears, and their own value systems. They are not actually seeing you.
Wow.
They are seeing a projection of themselves overlaid onto your life.
I want to try an analogy here because understanding this concept is so crucial.
Go for it.
Imagine the frame of reference is like a pair of polarized sunglasses. If I am wearing sunglasses with blue lenses and I look at a white wall, I am going to tell you the wall is blue.
Right.
I am not lying to you. From my perspective, filtering the light through my specific lenses, the wall is undeniably blue.
Makes sense.
If you try to argue with me that the wall is white, we're just going to scream at each other. The only way to find peace is for you to realize, oh, they're just wearing blue lenses.
That is a phenomenal analogy. You realize that their opinion isn't a factual assessment of the wall or of your life. It is merely a reflection of the lenses they are wearing.
Exactly.
And once you realize that, their negative opinion loses all its power to hurt you.
Mel Robbins quotes the incredible poet Mary Oliver in the book, and it honestly hit me right in the chest when I read it.
What's the quote?
The quote is, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?"
I love that so much.
Right. If you are constantly shrinking yourself, altering your choices, and hiding your true desires just to avoid the negative opinions of people wearing different lenses, you are tragically wasting that one wild and precious life.
To illustrate this frame of reference concept, she shares a really powerful, vulnerable example from her own family dynamic.
Yes, I loved this part because it was so honest.
It really was.
She talks about her two adult daughters. Her daughter Sawyer is moving to Paris, and her daughter Kendall is moving to Los
Big
Angeles.
moves.
Huge moves. And Mel, speaking as a mother, openly admits that she had deeply negative opinions about these moves. She was unhappy about it.
Naturally.
Now, why? Is it because Paris and LA are bad places? No. It is because Mel lives on the East Coast, and she is going to miss her daughters terribly.
She just wants them close.
She does not want them far away. Her negative opinion is dictated entirely by her frame of reference as a grieving mother who wants her kids close by.
But then she does this brilliant mental flip and looks at her own past.
I love this part.
She realizes that 30 years ago, her own mother had very negative opinions about Mel marrying Chris.
Oh, wow.
Why? Because Chris was an East Coaster, and Mel's mom knew that marrying him meant Mel would live far away from her.
It is the exact same dynamic playing out a generation later.
Exactly.
Both mothers had negative opinions that were absolutely not rooted in malice or in an objective judgment of the daughter's choices. Their opinions were rooted in their own grief of missing their children.
And what's fascinating here is how the application of the leptum theory allows two entirely conflicting truths to coexist at the exact same time without friction.
Yes.
Sawyer is absolutely allowed to want to move to Paris to live her wild and precious life. That is her truth. And Mel is absolutely allowed to be sad and have a negative opinion about that move. That is her truth. There is space for mutual understanding without it having to turn into an exhausting power struggle.
You don't have to convince the other person that you are right and they are wrong.
No, you really don't.
When I was reading this section, I realized how crazy our normal behavior actually is. Like, worrying intensely about someone else's opinion of your life choices is like letting a passenger in the backseat of your car, someone who doesn't even have a driver's license, suddenly reach up and grab the steering wheel while you are going 70 miles an hour on the highway.
That's terrifying.
You would never, ever let that happen in a vehicle. You would bat their hands away and say, I am driving.
Right.
But we let it happen with our lives every single day. We let people who aren't living our lives steer our decisions.
That is spot on. You let them dictate the direction of your life because you are terrified they won't approve of the scenic route you've chosen.
Yeah.
But as the book points out, when you finally master this acceptance of different viewpoints, it naturally leads you to face one of the most difficult, universally frustrating challenges we encounter as human beings.
Are we about to talk about dealing with adults who act like toddlers?
We are absolutely going to talk about navigating adult tantrums.
Oh, this section of the book is absolute gold.
It really is.
The hard, uncomfortable truth that we all have to accept is that many adults walking around completely lack emotional maturity.
It's true.
When they do not get their way, when their expectations are violated, or when they feel uncomfortable emotions like shame or guilt, they do not possess the tools to process it.
They just don't know how.
So they regress instantly to an 8-year-old state. They pout, they yell, they slam doors, they give you the passive-aggressive silent treatment, or they throw a full-blown tantrum.
It's important to understand the neurology of a tantrum, too. Like, when an adult is emotionally flooded, their prefrontal cortex, the logical adult part of the brain, literally goes offline.
It just shuts down.
It does. The amygdala takes over, and they revert to primitive, childish defense mechanisms. And what is our natural, instinctive response when we are faced with an adult throwing a tantrum?
Oh, we immediately want to fix it.
Right?
Or we want to fight back. We want to manage their mood. We try to calm them down. We try to logically explain why they are acting crazy, which never works, by the way. Or we match their energy and start yelling back.
Which is exactly what you should never do.
Yeah.
The book explains the deep psychological connection between this childlike behavior and unmet expectations. When you engage with an adult tantrum, when you try to reason with an offline prefrontal cortex, you are stepping directly into their chaotic energy.
You're jumping into the mud with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are validating the tantrum. Applying the theory here means allowing them to throw the tantrum without absorbing the emotional shrapnel.
Yeah.
You literally let them be mad.
Just let them be mad. But the book takes it a step further, and this is where it gets incredibly deep and introspective. It applies this framework not just to other people's external tantrums, but to our own internal emotional tantrums.
Wow, man. Yes, the brutal work of processing our own uncomfortable emotions.
It is brutal. When we feel like a failure, when we feel rejected, when we are overwhelmed with shame or embarrassment, the book has a specific mantra: let them rise, let them fall.
Let them rise, let them fall.
Meaning, allow the emotions to exist in your body. Do not immediately reach for your phone to scroll Instagram to distract yourself.
Which is my go-to move.
Oh, same. Do not reach for a glass of wine to numb it out. Do not frantically text a friend to complain and vent.
Well,
Just sit there and let the uncomfortable emotion happen, knowing logically that it is just a chemical wave that will eventually pass.
in psychology, this is called building distress tolerance. We live in a society that tells us any negative emotion is a problem to be solved immediately.
Yeah, like it's a bug in the system.
But emotions aren't problems. They're just data. If you can sit in the discomfort without acting out, if you can stay within your window of tolerance, you build incredible emotional resilience.
It's like a muscle.
Exactly. And directly connected to this internal emotional landscape is another massive trap that the book dissects: chronic comparison.
Oh, comparison. Theodore Roosevelt called it the thief of joy, and he was so right.
It is a deeply natural instinct.
Yeah.
I mean, we are social creatures. We orient ourselves by looking at the tribe.
Right.
But it is a total toxic trap if we use it incorrectly in the modern world. We open our phones, we see someone succeeding, someone getting the promotion we wanted or buying the beautiful house, and we feel devastated.
We feel this crushing weight that we are falling behind in life.
Mel Robbins tells this story in the book about her friend Molly, who is an interior designer. It is such a revealing anecdote.
I remember Molly.
Molly is super talented. She has a successful local business, but she constantly asks for social media advice. She wants to build a huge online following. But here's the catch. She never actually implements any of the advice she is given. She never posts the videos. She never writes the captions.
It just talks about it.
Right. The hard truth the book exposes is that Molly secretly wants the massive, glamorous success of the top designers she sees online, but she absolutely does not want to do the grueling, unglamorous daily grind required to actually get there.
And so, to protect our fragile egos from the pain of cognitive dissonance, what do? We manufacture excuses.
We do.
We look at the successful person and say, well,
So much easier to say that.
it is. It is a complete psychological cop-out designed to avoid facing our own lack of discipline and action.
The reframe provided in the book is brilliant, though. Instead of letting comparison paralyze you and turn you bitter, you use the theory.
Yeah.
Let them have their massive success. Let them be a millionaire. Let them have the best-selling book. And let me use their success as absolute, undeniable, real-world proof that my goal is actually achievable.
If they can do it, I can do it.
Exactly. If they can do it, it is physically possible. And then, let me shut my laptop and get to work.
It completely neutralizes the jealousy. It shifts comparison from a source of shame to a source of data and inspiration. You are taking the energy you wasted on envy and redirecting it into your own engine.
Which is huge.
I do have to push back a little here, though, because I know people listening are thinking this right now.
Okay, what is it?
If someone is standing in front of you throwing a massive adult tantrum, let's say they're being verbally aggressive, highly manipulative, or just incredibly toxic, at what point does just saying, let them, become enabling bad behavior?
That's a very fair question.
Like, at what point are you just being a passive doormat while someone destroys your life?
That is the single most common pitfall people face when trying to adopt this mindset, and the book addresses it very, very clearly.
My goodness.
Let them is never, under any circumstances, a license to stay in an abusive, toxic, or discriminatory situation. Let them is simply the micropause. It is the deep breath that stops you from emotionally reacting and matching their toxic energy. The very next second, you must forcefully engage, let me.
Right.
And let me is where you enforce your ironclad boundaries. Let them yell, let me quietly leave the room, or let them throw a tantrum and try to manipulate me. Let me clearly state that I will not be spoken to this way, and let me hang up the phone.
Wow, yeah.
It is absolutely not enabling. In fact, it is the opposite. It is refusing to play their chaotic game while strictly enforcing your own rules of engagement.
That distinction is everything. It is the pause before the action. And deciding whether to leave the room or stay brings us directly to how this theory radically changes the deepest, most complex, most fraught connections in our
Our
lives.
adult friendships and our romantic partnerships.
Yes.
This is where the theory moves from just managing daily stress to genuinely rewiring how we experience love and connection. Let's look at adult friendships first, because they are notoriously difficult to maintain.
Oh, they really are. The book makes such a fantastic point about this. When we were kids, our friendships were largely based on forced proximity and shared routines.
Right.
You rode the exact same bus, you sat in the exact same classroom, you played on the same recess yard at the exact same time. You were moving through life at the exact same pace as your peers.
But adult friendships are an entirely different landscape.
Yeah.
Everyone is on a wildly different timeline.
Exactly.
Some people are married with 3 kids, some are single and traveling the world, some are grinding 80 hours a week at a startup.
Yeah.
The book stresses that to master adult friendship, you have to fundamentally meet people exactly where they are, not where you want them to be.
Yes. You have to start pressuring people to change or to magically match your current routine.
It doesn't work.
The book is so funny and blunt about this reality.
Right.
It basically says adults only do what they feel like doing, period.
Period.
Pressuring them creates resistance, not results. So apply the theory. Let them vape if they want to vape. Let them wear sweatpants to your nice dinner party. Let them be a little messy. Let them cancel plans at the last minute because they are exhausted.
If we look at the neurobiology of behavioral change, it backs this up completely.
Yeah.
Humans are hardwired to move toward positive benefits.
Okay.
Threats, pressure, nagging, guilt trips, they don't work. They literally trigger a threat response in the brain, pushing the person further away from you and entrenching their behavior.
That makes so much sense.
True power in a friendship is positive influence, not forceful remodeling.
But what if you genuinely can't accept their behavior? Like, what if their flakiness is actually hurting you?
Then the let me part of the equation requires you to reevaluate the friendship. If their behavior is a fundamental deal breaker for your values, you have the courage to walk away or dial back the intimacy.
Right.
But you do not stay and try to forcefully mold them into someone else.
Which transitions perfectly into romantic relationships, where the urge to remodel the other person is usually the strongest, most destructive force of all.
Oh, absolutely. The stakes feel infinitely higher in love, so our instinct to control goes into absolute overdrive.
The book makes a profound statement here. We have to learn the difference between chasing love and choosing it.
Say again?
Chasing love versus choosing it. We have to love our partners for exactly who they are right now, today, not for their imaginary potential that we have invented in our heads.
There is a brilliant reference in the book to research from MIT, specifically from a neuroscientist named Dr. Tali Sharot. She studies optimism bias.
Optimism bias, okay.
Her research highlights this incredible cognitive bias we all possess. Everyone thinks they are the exception to the rule. We update our beliefs based on positive information, and we ignore negative information.
We do that all the time.
So we date someone who shows us clearly that they are emotionally unavailable, or they refuse to commit, or they are terrible with money. But instead of seeing reality, our optimism bias kicks in and we think, yes, but they will change for me.
Oh, wow.
My love will be the magic wand that fixes their trauma. I am the exception.
It is a total heartbreaking trap. We fall in love with a fantasy of who they could be, and then we punish them for being who they actually are.
It's so unfair.
The book shares a highly relatable, incredibly vulnerable dynamic from Mel's own marriage with her husband, Chris. It is such a great, tangible example of this concept in action.
It really is. They are complete opposites in almost every functional way.
Mel explains that she has ADHD. Her brain works differently. She leaves dirty tissues on the kitchen counter. She's constantly misplacing her keys. She runs 10 minutes late to absolutely everything.
Her life has this perpetual element of chaotic energy.
Yes. And Chris, on the other hand, is highly organized, deeply calm, predictable, and always meticulously on time.
And you can easily see, just looking at those traits, how that dynamic could lead to a lifetime of screaming matches, deep resentment, and eventual divorce.
Exactly. For years, Chris tried to change her. He nagged her, he tried to organize her, and Mel felt terrible, constantly feeling broken because she couldn't just be organized.
Which is awful.
But instead of constantly fighting a losing battle, they applied this framework. Chris made a conscious decision to accept Mel's chaos. He says, let Mel be. Mel.
Let Mel be Mel.
Why? Because he looked at the whole picture. He values her fierce loyalty, her wild enthusiasm, her massive heart, and her incredible sense of humor infinitely more than he values having a tissue-free kitchen counter.
He decided that the deeper, profound values she brings to his life completely trounced the surface-level daily annoyances. He stopped trying to fix the pipe.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and I think we both had a massive realization about this when we were discussing the book earlier, the paradox of change.
Oh yes, the paradox.
By dropping the constant demand for perfection from our partners, by stopping the endless nagging and coaching, we actually create the specific psychological safety that is required for them to want to grow and change on their own.
That was the moment that really struck me. I had always operated under the assumption that if I didn't point out what needed fixing in my partner, they would just stagnate forever.
Right.
I thought my criticism was the engine of their growth. But human psychology works in the exact opposite way. The pressure to change creates the resistance to change.
Always.
When you remove the pressure, when you offer radical, unconditional acceptance of who they are right now, the defensive walls come down. Their cortisol levels drop.
They feel safe.
They finally feel love for who they are, which ironically gives them the internal safety and the bandwidth to look at their own flaws and decide to work on them.
I have to reveal something to you, actually, about this exact point.
Oh.
When I was reading that section of the Let Them theory, I had this awful sinking realization about how much energy I have spent in past relationships trying to subtly coach my partners.
Wait, really? You did that?
Yeah, I did. I was constantly offering unsolicited advice, suggesting books, tweaking their habits. I genuinely thought I was being helpful.
Oh, wow. I mean, I think we all do that to some extent.
I thought I was being a supportive partner, but looking back through the lens of this theory, I realized I was just constantly broadcasting a message to them that said, you are not good enough the way you are, you need fixing.
Oof, that's heavy.
It was exhausting, and worse, I was making the people I loved feel entirely unaccepted. It was a massive, humbling blind spot for me.
That is such a profound, courageous realization. And honestly, it is so incredibly common. We constantly disguise our desire for control as helping or coaching or wanting what's best for them.
We really do.
But once we finally put the wrench down, once we stop trying to fix our friends and remodel our partners, a really fascinating phenomenon occurs. All that leftover mental energy, all those hundreds of hours spent worrying, analyzing, plotting, and complaining about other people, it has to go somewhere.
And it turns out all of that profound energy belongs in the most important, consequential relationship of all, which brings us to the final, ultimate application of the theory.
The let me era.
The let me era. The foundational relationship that dictates the quality of every single other interaction in your life is the relationship you have with yourself. The book is incredibly blunt and beautiful here. You are the love of your life.
Nobody's coming to rescue you.
Nobody is coming to magically fix your problems. Nobody is coming to pay off your credit card bills. Nobody is coming to do the deep work to heal your childhood wounds. And nobody is coming to knock on your door and hand you your dream career.
This brings up the psychological concept of locus of control.
Okay, tell me about that.
People with an external locus of control believe life happens to them. They are victims of circumstance. People with an internal locus of control believe they are the architects of their lives.
Okay, I see.
Taking radical responsibility means shifting firmly into that internal locus. The book argues that if you aren't where you want to be in life, ultimately, it is your responsibility.
Which sounds so incredibly harsh at first glance. It sounds like victim blaming.
It does sound harsh. But we have to break down why this realization is actually the most liberating concept in the world, not a condemnation.
Okay.
If your current state of happiness is entirely dependent on other people, like if you are waiting for an apology from someone who hurt you to finally heal, or waiting for a distracted boss to notice your hard work so you can get promoted, you are utterly powerless.
You're just waiting around.
You are trapped in learned helplessness. But when you realize that others cannot truly affect your internal state without your active permission, you suddenly become untouchable.
That is what stepping into the let me era is all about. It is about stopping the endless waiting game.
Stop waiting.
Stop waiting for external validation. Stop waiting for invitations to the table. Stop waiting for someone's approval to live the life you want. You do not need a permission slip from the universe to be happy or to pursue what sets your soul on fire.
If this conversation is resonating with you, do us a favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We put out a new podcast every single day covering books that actually make a difference in your life. You do not want to miss what is coming next.
Seriously, subscribe because we absolutely love unpacking this stuff and sharing it with you.
We really do.
Now, getting back to the Let Me era. The book provides these incredibly powerful daily affirmations that I actually wrote down on a sticky note and put on my mirror.
I love that you did that.
They are so activating. Things like, let me prioritize my own happiness today. Let me pursue my deeply held dreams with passion. Let me set boundaries that fiercely protect my peace. Let me love myself enough to walk away from a table where respect is no longer being served.
They aren't just empty affirmations. They are declarations of absolute independence from the chaotic opinions and behaviors of everyone else around you.
What I love so fundamentally about the Let Them theory by Mel Robbins is that by the time you finish the final page, it has systematically stripped away every single excuse you have ever clung to.
It takes them all away.
You can't blame your parents anymore for how you react today. You can't blame your toxic ex for your current inability to trust. You can't blame your annoying boss for your lack of career progression.
Right.
It leaves you standing face to face with your own immense capability. It is terrifying because you have nowhere to hide, but it is deeply, profoundly empowering.
It forces you to look objectively at the exact cards you hold in your own hand and figure out the best way to play them, rather than wasting your life complaining about the cards everyone else at the table was dealt.
So, as we wrap up this journey today, let's synthesize what we have really uncovered in this conversation. We explored the evolutionary biology behind our hardwired desire for control and how applying that desire to other human beings completely ruins our peace.
We unpacked the crucial, mandatory two-part equation. Let them to detach, engage the parasympathetic nervous system, and find peace. Plus, let me to reclaim your agency, enforce boundaries, and take strategic action.
We talked about how to physically and mentally neutralize those endless daily stressors, how to process adult tantrums without getting pulled into the emotional mud, how to stop the toxic, paralyzing cycle of comparison.
And how to radically, unconditionally accept the friends and partners we love for exactly who they are right now, not their potential.
And we brought it all home to the most important realization you can possibly have, stepping fully and unapologetically into your Let Me era and taking radical, joyous responsibility for your own life.
To you, listening to this right now, your time, your emotional energy, and your peace of mind are the most precious, finite resources you possess.
So true.
Do not waste another second of them trying to fix people who do not want to be fixed. Stop letting the unpredictable world and the chaotic people in it dictate the weather in your own mind.
I cannot recommend this book highly enough. If you are tired of feeling drained by the people around you, this is the exact framework you need. You aren't going to get the full depth of this from a quick Instagram quote, you know. You have to do the reading.
I completely agree. It is a mandatory read for anyone who wants to stop playing defense. I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative challenge to ponder based on everything we have discussed today.
Ooh, all right.
If you successfully implement this theory, if you completely, totally stop trying to control, fix, advise, or manage the people around you, what uncomfortable truths about your own life might you finally be forced to face with all that newly discovered free time?
Wow. That is the real work right there. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Go read the Let Them theory, drop the wrench, stop trying to fix everyone else, and step fully into your Let Me era. We will see you next time.